morning. Welcome back to the Mayor's Table. I'm Mayor Tommy Roberts, and I have two guests this morning. We have Ron Rosen, who is the project director for CH2M. This is the company with which the City of Farmington contracts for the operation and maintenance of our utilities, including the water and wastewater utilities of the City of Farmington. Ron, welcome this morning.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
And we have David Seifer, who is the Director of the Public Works Department at the City of Farmington. And welcome, David.
Thank you. It's good to be here.
So this morning, gentlemen, I want to talk a bit about the Gold King mine spill. We're about 9 months out from that event. Some people described it as a catastrophe. And I don't want to quibble with that designation, but I think that we certainly have had an impact in our community as a result of that spill. We've had millions of gallons of contaminants come down the Animas River from the spill site in southern Colorado. Those contaminants have settled out along that path of the waterway. The contamination plume actually moved into Utah, and it was diluted to some degree by that point in time. But there's no question that this was an event that created a high level of concern about the quality of our water in our community and along communities along the river. I want to try to address this in the context of continuing concerns. Certainly we managed the crisis early on very well, and I want to commend both of you for your role in representing the City of Farmington's interests there and being so concerned about our citizens' concerns about the quality of our water and the dangers that this contamination presented to our water supply. So as we move forward, we know that there are going to be some long-lasting impacts. A lot of these heavy metals settled out and are part of the sediment along the river banks and in the bottom of the river. And the concern that many people have would be, what is the continuing threat to our health, and particularly the quality of our drinking water supply? As we have storm events and heavy rain off here this spring, there will be waters flowing into the river, increasing the turbidity of the water. The sediments will be disturbed, and the heavy metals will be suspended in the water, and only to move down a ways farther and ultimately to settle out again. So we'll have this cycle continuing as we go along. I want to inform our viewers about what we're doing as a city entity, and Ron, from your perspective as a representative of the city, what we're doing about monitoring the quality of the water. And I'll start with you, Ron, from your perspective. What is it that we're doing?
Sure. Well, one of the things that the city directed us to do right away, soon after the mine incident occurred, was to install a continuous monitoring system that are these what we call hawk probes or sondes in the river at the two diversion points where we divert water out of the river into Lake Farmington, and so that we continuously monitor the quality of the river water. And that any time that any of the constituents that we're measuring would exceed a certain level, then the pumps are automatically turned off. And so virtually the lake is protected by this state-of-the-art system.
Have those monitors, since their installment, have they detected these levels of turbidity that have caused the pumps to shut down?
Yes, so during high runoff periods we get peak turbidities that are above 200 or 300, then that's the set points that we use to shut those pumps off. And so we've experienced those. We did a fair amount of testing of the water quality and did a really good correlation of turbidity associated with the contaminants, so that we know what the set points are that we want to shut those pumps off.
Are we able to assure, I won't use the word guarantee, but are we able to assure our citizens that during those periods of high turbidity that suspended heavy metals are not entering into Lake Farmington, which is the holding point for our water supply?
Yeah, that is correct, and we do, like I said, it's continuously monitored, and And we back that up with field staff. We operate the drinking water system 24 hours, 7 days a week. And so I have field crew that are out there also confirming test results.
David, let's assume the worst case scenario, and that is that some heavy metals did find their way into Lake Farmington. What protections do we have at that point as we draw water into our treatment facilities? Do we have some protections there?
We do, and I think that probably what we ought to say is that the lake itself is an awesome treatment facility, in that it's a settling basin in of itself. So by the time the water is drawn out of the dam and to our water treatment plant, we have another level of security there. So that's a really nice luxury to have because of our forethought of our counselors that allowed or authorized that or requested that that dam be created. That created a whole nother level of treatment for us. From there, it goes to our water treatment plant, which is a sophisticated, modern plant that takes care of several constituents in our water. So we have testing there at our raw water, and we have testing as a finished water through the treatment plant that is then distributed to the people. So two lines of defense after it leaves the river. So I think with those three lines of defense, I think we're in a really confident position.
Well, I think in this case I might use that word guarantee and say, are we able to guarantee our citizens, the users of our treated water, that they are receiving water for consumptive use that meets all drinking water standards?
Absolutely, that's what we do. We take, and we're very confident in our test results. We perform all the necessary tests and beyond. In fact, Ron was talking earlier about the water that we choose to pump into the lake. We don't just take for granted that the contaminant levels in the sediments remain the same. We continue to be diligent and careful that the correlation between turbidity and heavy metals, that we really do have a good handle on that. So we can adjust that number, that 200 turbidity units that we use as our earmark to control what gets pumped, and we make sure that that's an accurate number.
Ron, we're continuing to monitor the turbidity
Right.
In the water.
Right.
Are we continuing to test and take samples of water to determine water quality, and do we have a good baseline for that
we sure
correlation?
Do. Yeah, we sure do. Certainly, we're doing quarterly monitoring of the river by taking samples, and the state is also taking samples. I'm not sure what the frequency of the state is doing, but so we're continuously taking a look at the metals. But on the treatment side, we monitor the quality of the drinking water continuously also. So we're looking at things like chlorine residuals and especially turbidity. And the metal tests that we have conducted have all shown zero detect for any of metals of concern in our drinking water.
And I think it's also important to go back to the time of the spill and the water sampling and testing that was being done at that time. My recollection is there weren't any constituent metals that rose to the level of concern. I can't remember if any of them reached the detection level or not, but could you review that for us?
Yeah, they were all the samples that were taken at that time met drinking water standards in the raw water.
Okay. You alluded to the fact that the state of New Mexico is involved in this monitoring and testing process, and I think all of us who were involved at all in this event recognize that the state of New Mexico Environment Department stepped up and took control of the situation, and we all would agree, I think, that they did an outstanding job, and we appreciate their involvement. I think our citizens need to appreciate that as well. They also need to appreciate your efforts and the efforts of our staff at the City of Farmington in jumping on this and helping to avert a more serious problem, and I appreciate that as an elected official. The EPA, who is the culprit so to speak, in this event, in my opinion, also came to the table and has expended the resources to participate in the monitoring and the testing process as well. There are many people in our community who will be continue to be very upset about the EPA's role in creating the spill, and will continue to think that they aren't doing enough to continue to monitor the problem and the long-term impacts of it. That remains to be seen, in my opinion, as to what role the EPA will play. We have made a claim for the reimbursement of our own direct expenses, including the installment of the monitoring systems. I think our claim is a little bit over $500,000. Do you know the status of that claim at this point?
We've heard rumors that from time to time that the state who we went through to file this claim has reported to us that it's encouraging at this point, and that's about as much detail as we've received at this juncture.
We'll continue to monitor that, and obviously staff will be pursuing that claim and be on top of that, and we would expect to be fully reimbursed for those costs, and I anticipate that we ultimately will be. The EPA has a tremendous public relations problem here, and we think that that's going to probably work toward a resolution of these claims that are favorable to all of the claimants. So Ron, David, I want to thank you for being here this morning. Clearly this is going to be a continuing issue for the citizens of San Juan County, and particularly the citizens of Farmington. The best we can do, I think, is to assure them that we continue to monitor the situation and that we have the protocols in place that protect our drinking water supply. And we know that many of our citizens use the river for recreation purposes. We could only say that what we've been told, and that is that it's safe to as it was before, to use the water for recreation purposes. There may be other reasons why somebody wouldn't want to be in the water, but we won't do that at this point in time. So I want to thank you for being here and helping us get this message out.
Thank you. Thank you.
I want to thank all of you for being with us here this morning on the Mayor's Table. We hope that you've learned something again here with this particular segment, and we'll look forward to seeing you again next Monday.